Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. My guest today is my new friend Maris, who is the CEO and founder of what many of you might know as Borderless Retreat, but they have recently rebranded to Minoma, which stands for Mindful Nomads. And we get into that today because mindfulness is at the core of everything that they're doing, and they are serving the nomad community by bringing people out on epic trips to some incredible locations, letting them get their work done, well, digital nomading and all of that, but then also putting a big emphasis on mindfulness and connection and building tribe and community around that sort of thing. So this was a lot of fun, a very unique take on the retreat and nomad game, which I think is awesome to explore. And she was really, really inspiring in the way that she brought her personal story into the vision of the company, which I always love to see. So this was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. Please help me in welcoming Maris to About Abroad. I first came across your your profile and all the work that you're doing when you spoke at was it at the Thriving Nomads conference? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave like a pretty interesting keynote. I wasn't there, but I saw the video, and it really, there were so many things you were talking about that resonated with me. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to go follow along. And then since then, I've just been following all these retreats that you're doing all over the place. And I'm like, this is really awesome. I wish that I could have made it to that event. Was it a good one?
It was very interesting because it was smaller scale. And I think already by default, the focus was on impact. So it really brought together people who somehow had a different level of alignment already. There was a lot of beautiful conversations that just took part outside of the actual conference itself. And it wasn't too busy to pack with events. People actually had time to process and connect and really inspire each other. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. It looked like one where you'd walk away feeling a lot of connection with like-minded people, and a lot. I saw several videos, but honestly, not just saying this because you're here now. Yours was the one that stood out to me that I just remember being like, oh, I definitely have to follow along. And so anyway, it's cool. We're finally here. We finally get to meet after months of connecting in that way. And one of the things that caught me was that this whole journey for you kind of started in Lisbon, which is Portugal is the number one country in the world right now for expats and nomads, depending on nomad list where you look any given day, it's always up there. And that wasn't always the case. It's a fairly new thing. And Lisbon is obviously the biggest city in Portugal, and it attracts a lot of those types of people. And so anyway, it's just kind of what I loved was that so much of what you're doing kind of was born in Lisbon. And it sounds like you were on a little bit of a journey, trying to figure that out up until that point. If I'm not putting words in your mouth, correct me where I'm wrong.
Absolutely. I think that there's a few dots there that really connected. The journey started a little bit before, I would say, because first, how I came across this path was actually through a lot of personal transformation. It was before Lisbon that actually I went through a lot of shifts in my personal life, biggest them being just going to a Vipassana course. And somehow I talked about it on the keynote as well, but that was a really pivotal moment in my life where I felt like I got access to parts of myself that I didn't know even existed before. Intuition, for example, and really getting to know myself to the core of my being and starting questioning conditioning, societal norms. What do I actually want from life? There's this elevated sense of curiosity that Lisbon, by being such a beautiful, lively, expressive city, it just amplified my curiosity to an extent that I was so open-minded, so willing to receive, but not really looking for anything because I was on the path of architecture. I was really building my career. hustling because it is a field that you really have to, build your career and become an authority. And it's a quite of a fixed corporate environment, which I didn't really question before I actually moved abroad to Lisbon and met people who were traveling and working at the same time. And it wasn't only about the lifestyle, it was just this infectious passion that they had by having created a life that's so aligned with what they're passionate about. They really had built their life around purpose. And that was incredibly inspiring. And I think that intuition or that somehow deeper calling, because I can't really explain otherwise the shift from one day to the other, why I quit architecture to start something I had no idea about. Building community, building a business, nothing. I knew nothing about any of those, but it was such a strong feeling that this is what I'm meant to do, because really the core was to embody and share mindfulness. That's still the core in what we do. And Lisbon is beautiful, inspiring. Place for nomads.
It's such a lively, it's just such a high quality place to be. I mean, I've said for a long time, it's like my favorite capital city in Europe. Like it's the city, one of the major cities that I would like absolutely go live in. And but part of that's that like just that energy. It's got people from all over. It's, good weather, good food, international, hopping off point to get, fairly easily like back to the Americas, to Africa, all over Europe. Yeah, it's an awesome place. And then obviously now there's just a ton of like transient, you've got people that are moving there, being there for a couple months, couple years. I love the vibe, and it's an awesome place. And it's so cool that like for you, that was a transformational place to be. Like you were in the right place at the right time. And that's insane. I didn't catch that from your previous part of your story. So you were in architecture, like nothing to do with like now you're running like retreats around the world focused on mindfulness and bringing nomads together. And I actually want to hear you kind of define how you define Borderless Retreat, or now that we're going through the you can tell everybody about the rebrand that's happening as we speak. But like that, those two things are not connected at all, and that takes quite a leap of faith. And mixing in the international bit, when you talk, it's one thing to like switch industries and be at home, right? Like, okay, well, I'm just going to go from being in like nursing to like business or something, and like, but I'm going to stay home. But you're talking about like going abroad, talking about traveling all over the world, bringing people from all corners of the world to another foreign corner of the world. Like this takes some serious some guts, and I think that's pretty commendable and probably pretty inspirational for people that know you, to see you like make that pivot. Do you take any time to reflect on this?
I reflect a lot.
Yeah, you're very mindful. I mean, so I imagine so.
I really feel that this whole reflection and tapping within is part of my job description now. And definitely architecture was a completely different lifestyle. What I feel within this shift is that somehow this was something that it wasn't really a rational decision. It was something that landed in me. I really feel that sometimes I really feel that I'm just a vehicle, a person who this idea landed in. And somehow from the moment that I really got inspired by connecting those two dots, because it was a very deep intuition recognizing a purpose. I think it's really important to emphasize that before I was actually open to even consider the idea to quit architecture and leap into something, I had to go really, really, really deep within. Without that part, Borderless would not exist. I've said it many times that without Vipassana, Borderless Borderless would not exist. Without meditation, Borderless would not exist. Because it was an experience that got me out of my head into my body and actually gave me so much sense of trust and empowerment that when this idea actually came about, that there wasn't really a question on how to do it. It was just tapping into the why and the feeling and the vision and seeing something and just knowing in my core that this is meant to happen and I can make it happen. It's a really beautiful beautiful form of trust. And honestly, I think this is why I'm such an advocate for meditation. I think it can really, really, really get us closer to our truest core, which is incredibly powerful. I think human by default are so incredibly powerful, and we just need to get closer to it and then just go and explore and get inspired to tap into that energy and make things happen. And of course, it's not only me, it's the whole team around me. And then it's the people who actually come and join. Like it is such an infectious energy that has a massive ripple effect.
You're talking about this meditation, this retreat that you went on, which obviously connects with what you guys are doing at Borderless. Can you elaborate on what this is? It's really funny that you're mentioning it because I didn't know the whole part of your story in this regard. But my wife was literally just talking to me about this meditation today, and Vipassana. Am I saying it correct?
Vipassana, yes.
Yeah, she was just talking to me about it this morning as like she was like, I want to do one of these like 10-day. I think, is it 10 days? Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm connecting these dots as we speak. So let's just shed some light on what that is, because 24 hours ago I wouldn't have been able to speak to this at all, and I barely can now. As you can hear, I can almost not pronounce the word. So shed some light on this for us, and then that'll help us connect the dots to what you're doing today.
Yeah, please. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for asking this. Vipassana is it's a global movement. It's a global, I would say, infrastructure. And basically how this works, because there's so many locations across the globe where there is a center and you can attend the 10-day course. But what makes it so incredibly special is that it's donation based, that you don't pay anything before you go there. You only pay after either the finish of the course or later on if you feel that this really, really helped you. And Vipassana, what the word Vipassana means is just to see things as they are. And it's a 10-day meditation course. It's very radical, I would say, because there is no talking to other people, no eye contact, no phones, laptops, no distractions. And it's 10 hours of meditation per day. Not straight. But
okay, not straight. Good. I thought you were saying not, you don't get to break it up. No. Okay. So it's like throughout the course of the day, you're going to do 10 hours. That's nothing. I mean, that's not nothing. Like that's really, that sounds so hard for me. I would really struggle with that.
I do.
But I'm sure it's an amazing experience. Like it's one of those things that if you persevere through it, then you reap the rewards.
Absolutely. I think it's something, first of all, I feel that people go there if they really feel the call. It's not something to be actually forced, in my opinion, as well. And second of all, it's definitely an investment. I feel like for sure it's been physically, mentally the hardest thing I've ever done. But I also feel that it's the best thing. Without that, my path in my life would be very, very different. It would be, I can see those two paths very clearly playing out. First one being continuing the architecture career, getting married, buying a house, settling down. Whereas the other path just led me on this path of self-discovery and travel and meeting so many other people to question who I really am. What do I really want from life before I actually make any radical decisions on actually where to settle? What environments do I want to be in? What kind of people do I want to be around with? What energy do I want to have on a daily basis? I think it's something that within this lifestyle, we have an incredible opportunity to actually tap more into. We have so much freedom with location independence. It's an opportunity really to explore what actually makes us happy to the core of our being and build a compass upon that. Wow.
It's funny how so many people that I talk to, like successful entrepreneurs, depending on how you define success, like it doesn't really matter in this context, but just people that when I say success in that regard, I mean like people who I talk to who are doing something that they're really passionate about. They've found their tribe, their community. They found their path in terms of their purpose or career or whatever it might be. But they seem to have a sense of purpose. It almost always seems to start with this like take one step back to take two steps forward kind of thing. A lot of times we get on a path, we don't question it. It's just like it was like the path of least resistance, the one that appeared before us, and the one that society kind of says is like the normal one to take. And I see a million, I know millions of people that are, or I've watched at least millions of people who are on that path, and they are living comfortable and fine and happy to an extent, but oftentimes they're not completely fulfilled either. And then when I meet someone like you who has started down that path, but maybe regressed a little bit to start over, like in some sense, you were like climbing that mountain, and then you had to kind of climb back down a little bit to climb a different mountain that's got a better view at the top. And like almost always it kind of begins with that backtrack. And so it's really like, I always find that really inspiring. Like you see someone who could have just continued on the comfort zone path and just done what they were quote unquote supposed to do. And this podcast has like helped me meet so many people like that have just taken the slight diversion, I guess, to what they really wanted to do. And I always see these big beaming smiles on their face. And I don't know, it's cool to reflect on. The reason I mention that in this context, like of this podcast, is because a big portion of the audience are people who will write in and say, man, I really want to do something like this. Like I'm living my life this way, but I really want to be doing what your guests are doing or what you've done or something like that. And I think that's a great reminder, like listen to this part of Mara's story and like hear that, sometimes you do have to take that step back. Sometimes you do have to get off the path and just take a leap of faith and try something different. And I think that's worth like calling out, because now you're doing this really cool thing, which we should get to, by the way. Like we keep talking about it like this is what you arrived to, but let's tell people what Borderless is in case they're unfamiliar.
Beautiful. So Borderless Retreat, soon to be in Minoma, as we're rebranding. We're organizing retreats with the focus on mindfulness for digital nomads and entrepreneurs. And we've done it for the past 4 years. So basically it's bringing together a group of people, 10 people, for really intimate experiences. And we curate a journey. We curate the journey that goes through different, the end goal is really deep connection and people getting to know themselves better through mindfulness. And they're, let's say, okay, maybe one good way I can also explain what the retreats are about is giving an example of one day. So we start every day with yoga and meditation, because this is something that is a non-negotiable. It's just to set the energy for the day and really check in with ourselves and make sure that we actually put a lot of attention within to see what's occurring for us. What do we need to set our energy for the day? And it's a space where people connect, not only individually, but also collectively. It's such an important shared value for us that this is the first thing we do in the morning. We do breath work, meditation, different modalities, but there is a specific journey throughout the week that is built very, very, very intentionally. We take both curation and guidance extremely seriously. But throughout the day, after we do the morning routines, we usually have breakfast together in the sun, because we usually do the retreats in warmer environments. And then after breakfast, usually everyone just starts working on their daily tasks. Most people are entrepreneurs who join, but it's also freelancers, remote workers. They have their daily tasks that they need to get done, or it's a space for collaboration. I'll tap into that a bit later, because I think it's very important how we can actually help each other forward and support each other. But after that time frame, there is a lunch break. Again, we have lunch together. This is something that we provide within the experience, so people would have more time to feel, less time that they need to spend on thinking, planning. And after lunch, again, there is a block of time that we co-work, and in the evenings there is guided activities that we do together, which really focus on deeper connection, deep listening, authentic relating, or it's around self-expression, really tapping into joy through ecstatic dance, conscious dance, giving people different reference points on how how much joy and freedom they can experience in a group. That's really, really important, is what we stand for. But there's also this aspect of collaboration, the masterminds and skill shares, in which at the beginning of the week when we come together, we really connect also. First, we connect personally in the first introduction round when we share about who we are as people and what's been our transformation journey and shifting points in our life, because this is something we connect upon. We first really connect personally before we share anything professionally. But within the first days, we also map down a lot of the skills and knowledge that we have within the group individually, because that's really, really powerful to help each other, especially when we're so aligned, meaning that we really want to make a positive impact and create projects, create things out of this sense of ease and love. It's such a shared value that it also makes us very emotionally connected and really, really eager to help each other out. It's a collective game. We really feel like if one wins, we all win. It's such a beautiful synergy, that this collaboration aspect that then happens throughout the week on different days, people seeing that, okay, there's some projects that we can do together or help each other out in specific niches. It just happens on its own, but we help to map it down also and keep track throughout the week and later on.
You do these things in pretty incredible places around the world, which is something that's obvious to you, I think, but like someone listening might not even realize. You're talking about, like, you have one coming up going to Morocco, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah.
That is correct.
Just to give people a visual, like some other destinations either coming up or in the past that you've gone to, so we can start to form a picture. And then I have a question that I want to follow up with.
Amazing. We've done the retreats within Europe for now, besides Morocco. So it's been Spain, Gran Canaria, the islands, Portuguese islands, Azores, Madeira. Within Portugal, a lot of different locations, in Croatia, Bulgaria. They have been locations where, first of all, there is a nomad community, or there is a big conference or an event happening where people already gather, and then we can continue that momentum and really deeply connect after that for a week, because it's really all about community building.
Yeah. Okay. So that's part of the reason I want to ask the question, because that community building aspect is so important. And the types of people that are joining this tend to be, I think this has to do with your rebrand also, like they tend to have some kind of like nomadic roots, or maybe roots is the wrong word for a nomad, but you know what I mean? Like there's a nomadic aspect to this. A lot of people are, as you mentioned, freelancers or entrepreneurs or working online, remote workers. So you're going to these amazing places with people that have that location independence, or the ability to at least like bring their work with them, and then curate this experience where you have mindfulness mixed with some entrepreneurship and still getting your work done if needed, if you're using that time for that. But what I think is so cool about this is there's a pain point being solved here that I don't think gets a lot of attention because of the Instagram world we live in, right? But I think there is this, like in the Instagrammy world that we live in, you know, you see digital nomads and remote workers all around the world in these really cool places and taking pictures of that and sharing their journey in that way. But I talk to so many people kind of out of the spotlight who are suffering for several reasons, because they're trying to keep up with that charade a little bit, you know, trying to keep up with what that lifestyle looks like. They're not really making as much money in a lot of times as you might think. So like that, while that travel is a lot of fun, often it's kind of like hard travel. There's also like a lot of downsides to the like loneliness and burnout, people overworking. You know, they're like, not every remote company that allows you to work from wherever is like doing it in a really sustainable way. So there's just a lot of challenges. And one of those challenges, I think, is like this paradox of choice thing, where you've got like all the options in the world, right? Like literally, like, where do you want to go live this month? Or what work do you want to work on? Like, you're a freelancer, you could work with a bunch of different clients. Or maybe you're going through, like, you're a solopreneur, but you're like going through a transition like you did, like going from architecture to doing what you're doing now. And so I talked to a lot of people who are actually like kind of in some way or another, like on some end of the spectrum, kind of miserable, or like kind of like lost might be the better word, really trying to figure it out. And I cannot think of any better cure for that than being with a group of people who are like-minded, having similar shared experiences, and then having that space for collaboration to work through that. And I've seen some pretty, I'm sure you have too. This is my long way of getting to this, is like there's probably some pretty awesome connections that come out of this, and ideas that form, and people kind of find their path, whether that be with someone they met there or because of something they learned there. But I've seen this like over and over and over again, and it starts with that community of like-minded people. And we often think that that's what we're going to lose when we go abroad, but I think often you find that tribe when you're connected and in the same place. So I think that's what I think is really special about what you're doing. Combining all those things is actually like solving a lot of pain points that might be sort of under the radar for the common person who's just watching nomads traveling around the world and not feeling one bit sorry for them from their cubicle in Cleveland or whatever. But I think it's very real.
Absolutely. I agree. To tap upon overwhelm, I think this is something that is a result of traveling too fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And traveling too fast usually comes from just being somewhat disconnected. We live in a world that has so many distractions already by default, where I'm speaking from my personal experience, but for example, I was not really taught emotional intelligence nor mindfulness when I was growing up. This process of starting to actually question things and discovering who I am and what do I value started only after, not even after university. It started after I went to Vipassana, after I started traveling, and after this whole process of radically not only diving deep within, but also radically just changing my environment. And both the environment and this connection to ourselves are so incredibly important. And well, I can't not agree that community really is the key, and this resonance, because also I think people, what I see from the people who come together for the retreats is that they have usually a sense of purpose from this journey of really being connected to themselves. And already that means that they're really, really, really aware of their energy and how they spend it and what kind of people they want to be connected with. So there is this somehow this collective synergy and alignment that even if people don't really know what's their purpose or how do they define meaningful work or how do they find more clarity in their projects, there is something really, really special about this collective energy. It uplifts us to somehow also emotional states that really open our heart and open our mind and make us believe that something else is possible for us. I've seen it many times, even when people come to the retreat and they haven't really considered that they should be shifting their paths somehow by being surrounded by people who are so purpose-driven and just so aligned and really, really, really aware. They get activated, like something that was already there within gets activated. For example, for one girl, it manifested as she came to the retreat thinking that, okay, she wants to, as a freelancer, to just choose her clients better, to work with clients that she's more aligned with. And that's already a beautiful goal on itself, to be aware of that and make decisions upon that. But eventually, by the end of the week and also later on, she realized that it's not what she wants to do at all. Like, it's actually the facilitation of breath work that before she was really curious about, but being like, how can I make it happen? It's not really meant for me. Like, suddenly there's this elevated sense of empowerment and belief that something's possible just by sharing this energetic space with other people as well. I think it's really, really important that it's not just an individual marathon, it's really about tapping into like collective energy and collective support. And this is something that I think if we have a spark within, an idea within, even if it's deep down and we don't really feel it, this is something that being surrounded by shared intention, shared joy, shared awareness, all of those elevated emotional states can accelerate to an extent that's it's really undescribable. And I'm going into quite abstract ways of explaining things, but this is what I see. I see that within this movement, it's not only about remote work or digital nomadism, or it's really a shift, like an energetic shift. People people really, really starting to become more aware and questioning how they can live more consciously, live more intentionally, and build a meaningful life. And I see this maybe because I'm very much in this bubble, but I see a global movement, and I see this being something incredibly powerful that has a potential to change also how this lifestyle actually plays out in the next 5-10 years. Because I agree, burnout, isolation, overwhelm, these are very, very occurring topics. And we do have the potential to individually do the work and just share it with others, like share the inspiration, share the love. We travel. We have also the means to go and exponentially share this inspiration, share this wisdom. I think it's incredible. I'm maybe getting a bit too emotional here.
No, no, let it out on the all on the table here. I mean, I agree with you, and it doesn't hurt that you're doing them in like pretty incredible, sunny, beautiful tropical destinations. Are not always tropical, I guess, but like some awesome locations around the world. I mean, that combines the two worlds that you live in. Like you straddle those two and bring them together. And, bringing like the mindfulness together with the ability to go to these incredible locations and experience them, but maybe in a different way. Like a lot of us, we think about going on a vacation or going nomading somewhere for a while, or even going and like spending a few months in a place. And like, you know what that experience is going to look like more or less, and I think like this is one of my favorite things about this whole movement that we're seeing, like remote work has enabled more people to like live globally and to choose where they want to go and spend significant time. And because that demographic is expanding, you have services like Borderless, for example, that are coming, like arising to serve those needs or to offer people variations of what they would have done in the past. And this is the coolest thing. We'll be right back to the show after a quick break for a note from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by my good friends over at Greenback Tax. As an American citizen, I'm from one of only 2 countries in the entire world that requires I pay taxes on my global income, regardless of which country I'm actually living in. So when I started my expat journey back in 2015, I knew my tax situation was about to get complicated. Fortunately, I discovered Greenback and I've never looked back. Greenback is 100% focused on helping U.S. expats with their tax situation. And to date, they've filed almost 50,000 returns for nearly 15,000 happy customers from more than 200 different countries. After 7 years working together, I can say with confidence that they make one of the most painful parts of life abroad an absolute breeze with their automated systems, friendly advisors, and expertise in the very specific niche of U.S. expat taxes. Also, for those of you who may have fallen behind on your taxes and/or you're trying to get ahead of tax season in 2023, Greenback has your back here as well. They can assist with late filings to ensure you don't encounter any problems with the IRS and to make sure you start 2023 off right. Tax season is on the horizon. Learn more about Greenback today by going to greenbacktaxservices.com via the link in the show notes. If you've made it this far into the episode and you're still enjoying yourself, then I would love to ask a quick favor. Open up the app that you're using to listen to this podcast and leave a quick review. You can do this in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and really just about any platform that allows podcast listening now. If you can't find that in the interface of the app, then scroll down in the show notes and find ratethispodcast.com/aboutabroad, and you should be able to leave it from there. Thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate it and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. 5 years ago, if we wanted to do what you're offering, or like it happened to be that my wife was literally talking about the same thing this morning, like I would have been like, I don't even know where you start. Like, where are we going to find this? And those needs are being met. And so I'm curious to know more about the rebrand. Like you're going from Borderless, like it's been Borderless Retreat, or I heard you refer to it as just Borderless. So correct me where I'm wrong there. And then you're transitioning to a new one. So I'm just curious to hear the mindset behind that.
Beautiful. I would love to share. So the past 4 years now, it has been Borderless Retreat. And I do refer it to Borderless just because it's somehow, it's just easier to pronounce.
It's catchier. Yeah.
Yeah. But we've been through this whole process because I feel like our initial focus on digital nomads was somehow, it came upon so naturally, because when we brought people together first in really smaller formats, we felt like it's the shared lifestyle that really connects us. It's this shared joys and struggles and we just created a really intentional space where we can very vulnerably share our stories and really connect on a deeper level. And mindfulness has always been part of it. And the past 4 years, we have mainly focused on retreats. And this has been also an incredible, let's say, market research, because hearing so many stories from people and stories that really tell about their journey and who they are as people, we have gotten to know like our community and target groups so incredibly well that now we're also just expanding into different offerings. So this is one reason that we're expanding from just retreats also into a larger scale festival, which will happen next October.
Oh, cool.
In Morocco, and we'll bring together 100 plus people who are really, really aligned, not only within their lifestyle, but also in their values and interests. Most of them, yeah.
Okay. Wait, do you mind if I ask two questions? One, do you know where you said October?
October.
Is that right? And do you know the location yet?
We know the location. It's going to take place in Agafay, Morocco. There is a Selina that is in the middle of the Agafay desert, but it's incredible location. The view around is breathtaking, and it's a place where we can actually, as 100 people, come together and stay there as well. So it's a different format for a festival. Also, there is not a focus on speed networking nor too many keynote talks. It's really a sensory experience. We focus more on ecstatic dance, of course, workshops also, because we have so many incredible people in the community who are so passionate about what they do that this is just a playground to connect. And then also, of course, music, some DJs, some electronic music, meditation, yogas, sunset sessions, all that we stand for in the retreat, all the activities we do on a retreat, just on a bigger scale. And it's something that the synergy is what we focus on, what we prioritize. It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I can see like, I wish people could see your face the same way I could, because you are so stoked about this. And I could just see it like beaming from you. And it's very contagious. So my second question, I think you pretty much answered it, I think, but like I was trying to differentiate between like a retreat and a festival. So it sounds like, well, actually, let me just ask you to clarify that. If someone asks you like, well, what's the difference between one of your retreats and and the festival, how do you respond to that?
I think it's definitely the group dynamics, group experience, because the retreat is bringing together 10 people. It's very, very intimate. It is such a safe space that is incredibly hard to pull off in groups of more than 10 people. And the festival already by its scale has a completely different intention and also this emotional intensity. The festival is meant to, first off, bring together people who've been to the retreats already, because there is a lot of connection on each individual retreat. But there's also people who have been on different editions, but they're so aligned within their path. Maybe it's about sustainability and traveling to conservatories, and they have not, for example, had the playground to meet in person yet. So that's our first initial intention, to bring all the alumni together, but then additionally also within this container invite other people who somehow feel like they just first of all resonate with the values and they want to experience a different level of inspiration and celebration. Like our main focus is just very, very, I would say, just emotional state. The focus point is joy. The fact that we have the shared lifestyle is just a cherry on the top.
I love it. That's a great way to connect those dots. Okay, so I distracted us or diverted us from the rebrand conversation. So please continue on that path, because I'm curious. It's a beautiful, very cool new name that you've selected, and so I just want to like kind of connect those dots, I guess.
Thank you so much. So first off, I already touched upon the extension of offerings. But besides festival, also we are really, really tapping into community building and building courses and a pro membership as well, which is again the main point, or our mission is really around curation. It's to bring people together who really feel like they have a lot of shared values, and they're then by default really, really motivated to help each other out and to help each other grow. So these are the other offerings. But I would say what's the main reason behind rebranding is actually getting clarity, because the focus on mindfulness is something that we've always had there, just because the team lives by those values, and we somehow what we do is just an extension of that. But now we've connected with so many people, and we've also asked them specifically how can we help them further, help them grow, help them to connect. And there's this specific values and needs that people express mostly, and they are all around mindfulness.
Makes sense. And there's some connection that you have to Morocco, which I think is really cool. And I don't know if there's a story behind that or not, but like I can see on your website, like the next one that you have coming up in Morocco. It's one of the places you've been multiple times outside of Europe. You're having the festival there. Like, is there anything personal to that? Or I mean, Morocco doesn't need like a justification. So I don't ask the question in that regard. It's like a very popular place to go travel to. And it's got a super unique and vibrant culture, and beautiful landscapes and stuff. So I don't really ask the question in that regard, but just curious if there's anything like extra special that we should know about Morocco.
Oh, really good question. Well, first off, we went to Morocco only a few months ago to organize the first retreat, and the location was Tagazout. It's it's a place where the first co-working opened already 8 or 9 years ago. So somehow it's developed into a nomad hotspot, and there's also a lot of surfers there. So Tagazout especially already has a very, very specific vibe. It's I would say it's very similar to Ponta do Sol in Madeira because of its scale. It's very, very small scale, but somehow there's still a lot of community building and events happening, like a weekly meetup. There's different events that people organize, and there's quite several co-working places as well for such a small place. It's a village of 3,000, 4,000 people, and has 5 co-working places.
What? That's insane. What is this? Is down on the coast? It's like a surf town.
Exactly.
Yeah. How do you call it again? I'm not familiar with it. Tagazout.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
In Tagazout also, because as Selena is a front runner in also mapping down locations where they open new establishments, co-livings, co-workings, they also have Tagazout on their radar. So this is a place where even a Selena will be open.
That's the badge of honor when Selena dubs you like an up and coming spot. You're on the map.
It is an indicator for sure. And another Selena that they have there in the middle of the desert, it's one of their most unique places. It's really incredible. It's all built in tents. There is this Moroccan carpets, those pillows all over the area, those beautiful pools, and just the landscape around, seeing camels on the horizon. It's a wonderland. It's really beautiful. But what I would say from personal experience is that Morocco, somehow, again, it's a very welcoming environment, first off. I think it depends on where you go, but in the smaller locations, it's extremely welcoming. And there is a lot of joy. I can see it walking on the streets on a daily basis, that if you're in a really good place and you share it with other people, this gets amplified. And again, this is not not taken by granted. Sorry, not taken. Yeah, not taken for granted.
Not to be taken for granted, I think.
Yes, not to be taken for granted.
It's a lot of words. Like, why do we put so many words in that sentence?
Indeed. But this is it's something again that is not by default necessarily like a representation of any environment. It's something I feel is quite unique. I think also part of it is probably that their culture and religion is very specific. There's no consumption of alcohol generally, and they do have also their daily calls to prayer. So I feel like there is a different value system already in place. And this, I think if you're somehow open and aware and just curious, you feel it. It's a place where a lot of people also who came to the retreats, they said that they just, wow, they landed and they felt that there's somehow different energy to a place. And again, like this is hard to rationalize.
It is, but if you've been there, I totally understand what you're saying. Like I also think Morocco is interesting as a general destination because of what you mentioned about the like when you get outside the major cities. So if you just go to the major cities, you might not feel that. You might not necessarily think of words like joy and peace and like things like that. I mean, it's a bit aggressive for some people. I've heard some people have different experiences there. I actually kind of had like a bit of a rough experience on my trip to Morocco, but I was only in like Tangier and Marrakesh but as soon as I got outside the village or out into the villages and into the mountains and in the desert and like met people, it was a totally different experience. Like I was so thankful that I didn't just stick to the cities. And anybody that I've talked to that has like a polarizing view on Morocco, they pretty much just stuck to the cities. It's not to say that they're not. It's absolutely. I mean, you have to go walk through the markets in Marrakesh and there's so much more. I mean, it's just using the most stereotypical experience, but like you have to go do that stuff because it is such an interesting experience. But don't just do that because you have to get out into the countryside a little bit to get that real like sense of joy that you're talking about. I actually met so when I went there, I took the ferry from the south of Spain and did that trip that way, and then the train down through the country and back. But I met a couple on another ferry, oddly enough, now that I'm thinking about it. They had been driving around Europe in their camper van, or they had more like an RV, but they were driving for like 2 years. They'd been traveling all over. And their two favorite experiences in like all throughout Europe were when they passed into Morocco. They spent 3 months in Morocco to reset their visa because they weren't European, they were Americans. So they had to go in and out of the Schengen area to do that. So they spent 3 months in Morocco. So out of their 2 years, their 3 months in Morocco was number one. And their number two trip was the same sort of thing in Albania, which I'm just remembering now. So anyway, I just found that like super fascinating. They were out there like in the middle of nowhere, driving around in their RV, meeting just amazing people. They had some hilarious stories about like they actually broke down in the desert and just were treated so well. And so anyway, that just came back to me as we're talking about it. But yeah, it's a special place, and I think like one that people should try to prioritize to experience if they haven't already.
I agree. I think anyone who's listening and feels like they somehow feel that it could be overwhelming and it might be hard to find those places that really, amplify so much joy, I'm more than happy to give my best tips and references and all suggestions around where to go and when to go. Just feel free to connect. I'm happy to share, the love for Morocco.
or maybe they'll join you on a Borderless retreat and go experience it with you there. If not, yeah, I think you've been many times, and it would be awesome for people to be able to reach out to you there. And on that note, I know we're running up on time here, and I gotta let you get back to real work. But that might be a great place for you to leave your contact info where people can find you. We'll put all this in the show notes as well, but the new URL where people can go to learn more about Borderless, or what was formerly the show formerly known as Borderless, and follow and connect with you guys there. And I also, whether you want to mention them or not, we'll add the social media handles as well, because people should definitely follow along there. It's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. Thank you. The website for now is borderlessretreat.com. That will soon be redirected to minoma.global. Minoma is short for Mindful Nomads. And we are most active right now on Instagram. There's a lot of stories we share from the retreats, the behind the scenes. We have increased focus now on creating also content that really helps people, helps especially nomads who live this specific lifestyle to do it in a more intentional way. We really have a focus on mindfulness and helping to guide people again closer to themselves, just to navigate this beautiful lifestyle better with more ease. And I'm also personally happy to connect with anyone who has any questions around
all the things that we discussed. If you like from Morocco to mindfulness and everything in between, maybe architecture, you've got a lot to share. So no, this was great. Yeah, like thank you so much. I think what you're doing touches a large part of the demographic of people that are just looking for something unique and different and exploring. And maybe feeling a little bit lost and hoping to get found. And I think that you guys are helping people a lot in that regard. And then also mixing in stuff that we love to talk about here on About Abroad, which is like just this exploration around the world. So it's a lot of fun, and I love following along. So thanks for sharing more today.
Thank you so much, Chase. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to connecting in person before too long. Thank you again, and we'll speak soon.
Speak soon.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. For those of you wondering how you can best support the show, I have made it super simple for you. Just go over to the show notes of the episode that you just finished listening to and click on one of the two following links. aboutabroad.com/newsletter to get our monthly newsletter, no spam, guaranteed, or ratethispodcast.com/aboutabroad, where you can quickly and easily leave a review for the show. It's not just important to me, it also helps more wanderers just like you find us. Finally, don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, and we will see you again next week. Thanks again. Hasta luego, amigos.